Today's video is an honest tent review of our 10-person instant setup Coleman Cabin Tent with Darkroom Technology.
Boy, that's a mouthful.
Could that title be any longer?
I don't know, but if you stick around until the end, you'll get to hear what each of our honest opinions are, and you'll get to see if we even agree with each other.
Hi, we're Dennis and Michelle.
As we approached an empty nest, we dreamed of the day when we could travel more.
But then we decided we should stop thinking about traveling and start actually doing it.
We are transitioning to full-time travel by first going on day trips, weekend camping trips, and sometimes even longer trips.
So come along with us as we take a trip together.
Throughout our 2021 adventures, you have been watching us use this 10-person Coleman tent. And today you're going to get to hear what we actually think about this tent.
First, a word about using a tarp underneath your tent. We always use one because, especially on a tent like this with the poles built in, it's very hard to clean the bottom of the tent. And so, I'm talking about underneath the tent. So we always lay a nice tarp out because we're usually on dirt. And then that way we can fold up the tent and the bottom's usually nice and clean, and then we can sweep off the bottom of the tarp easily later on. Also, it protects the bottom of the tent from maybe a loose stone here and there, or roots or whatever. It just adds a little extra protection for the bottom of the tent. It also acts as a moisture barrier and a little bit more insulation from the coldness of the ground.
When we say that it's hard to clean off the bottom of the tent, there are times when you're going to need to clean it off because you got caught in a rainstorm and it's muddy underneath, and we've had that happen. And the thing you need to be really careful of when that happens is that you don't twist the poles when you're turning the tent on its side so that you can clean the bottom. It's really easy for those instant poles to get twisted, and then they feel like they're stuck and you can't open or close them very easily.
The cross section of the poles is a D shape, so that it has a flat side on both the inner and the outer pole, so when they slide together those flats have to line up, and sometimes they get twisted.
If you're wondering how instant this tent is to set up, we're going to show you at the end of the video a real-time setup of the tent so that you can be the judge on how instant you think it is.
The Darkroom Technology. Why don't you give some of the pros?
Okay, I really like the Darkroom Technology. It keeps the tent cooler on hot sunny days. It makes it so that people can't see shadows inside when you're inside the tent at night and you've got the light on and stuff in there. They can't see inside, so it protects from peepers.
Or really weird looking shadows.
Yes, and we have a tendency to go to bed a little bit later at night when we're camping, so the Darkroom Technology makes it so that we don't have to wake up when the sun rises, and I really liked that feature as well. Did you want to talk about some of the things you didn't like about the Darkroom Technology?
Sure, give me the list. Yes, we have notes. I can't remember all this. Okay, so one of the downsides to this dark technology is that it's dark. Even midday, if we go in there right now, and we'll show you in a little bit, it's midday, we'll do up all the zippers because you can't have the windows open when you're changing your clothes. You gotta sometimes close things up, and even in the day. Yeah, it's dark in there. You need a flashlight in the middle of the day to see anything, especially if you got something laying on the floor that you have to try to find, digging through your clothes bag or whatever, looking for your phone wherever that might be charging. It's dark.
Right.
Having the windows open makes it better, but it's still down in the corners along the edges. It's still pretty hard to see down there.
Right, and we did find that if you are changing, you can open the windows maybe this far, and they're open, but they're not really very far below the rain fly. So people can't see in, but you can still get enough light to be able to change in privacy.
The walls on the inside, they seem to absorb light. So even when you're shining a flashlight, it doesn't reflect and throw light all over. They just absorb the light.
This is a 10-person tent. So it's roomy, 14 by 10, and it's large enough for us to be able to put a pretty massive, queen-sized, very thick air mattress in there and be quite comfortable. And there's still room left over for us to be able to have our duffel bags and other things at the end for storage.
And to be able to stand up and change your clothes.
Right, and why don't you talk about that? You're 6'3".
Right, I'm 6'3", so I really wanted something tall enough that I could stand up in. And for the most part, I can stand up anywhere in here.
It's 6'7" in the very center, but he's 6'3" and can still stand pretty close to the edge. This is supposed to be a 10-person tent. Would you say this is a 10-person tent?
That's not the way I would describe it. It is a big tent, I'll give it that, but I think comfortably a family of 4 or 5 would be the maximum you'd want to put in here.
5 might be tight.
The description, the Amazon description for it said you can fit 4 queen-size mattresses in here. You might be able to do that, but they'd go all the way out to the walls, and you wouldn't be able to, you'd have to step on those mattresses to get in and out. I mean, it's not practical.
No.
So, I mean, we'll show you, but we had our queen-size mattress in there and had a little bit of room on each side, and then we had, you know, you could put a couple of sleeping bags on the what was left over probably.
Right, you wouldn't be able to even put another queen-size air mattress in there and still use the tent, unless you were crawling over a mattress to get to the next mattress.
Yeah. If you had tried to fit 4 or 5 people in there, you'd have to do it with very thin mattresses, and you'd have to arrange it totally differently.
Or no air mattresses.
Or no air
you could
mattresses.
just line people up like cordwood, then you might be able to get 10 in.
One of the downsizes to the size of this tent and the instant setup of it is it's heavy. You're not going to use this in anything but your backyard or a campground that you can drive up and put it right there. The Amazon description said it was 42 pounds. I was surprised when I actually saw that and looked it up for this video. But it's heavy. It's long. The bag is long. You can actually stuff it all back inside the bag, but it's long and bulky, and it's got a couple straps that you could, you know, you can kind of throw it over your shoulder, but you're not gonna want to carry it very far. It's big and heavy.
Another feature to this tent that is unique is that it has a hinged door, which I thought was really convenient, because once you put the fiberglass rod into the edge of the door, then you can actually open and close the door easily without having to fully zip and unzip the door every time you wanted to go in and out. And I thought that was especially handy when you're loading the tent in the beginning, when you're breaking up camp at the end and you're doing a whole lot of trips. You can just let the door kind of flap open and shut and not have to, you know, zip each time.
Should probably say that there's actually 2 doors on this tent, one on this end and one on the other end. Only one of them is the hinged style of door.
Yep.
And that's the one we always use. We never used the back door once.
True, and the thing is, you can kind of decide. If you like the hinged door, you can use the hinged door, and if not, you can have that be a wall. Just keep it shut and use the regular traditional tent door. So it's kind of up to you.
Yep.
But was there anything about the door that you didn't really...
Yeah, one of the things that's about the hinge door that I really didn't like is it's supposedly when you let it swing closed, there's supposed to be Velcro strips that hold it in place, but it usually sags down a little bit too far, and there's a little gap along the top. And so if you're in a buggy area, you know, the bugs are going to get in if you leave it like that. So it's just a little, doesn't work quite the way it was meant to, I don't think. The other thing that I didn't like was, like, when we were going inside for the night and wanted to zip it up from the inside, almost always I would catch the zipper on the flaps that were on the outside of the door that acted as rain protection, and it got to be very difficult. I usually had to get down on my knees or sit down and try to, you know, you back it up and then you go forward again. It was kind of a pain. Didn't work the way it was supposed to.
One little tip that we found when we wanted the door, we were going to be in the campground, in our little camp area, but we weren't necessarily going to be in the tent for a little while is we could just zip along the bottom of the door and then tuck the rest of the door underneath the flap,
Rain protection,
the
yeah.
rain protection flap, and it would stay in place because of the Velcro, and we didn't have to fully zip and unzip unless we were going to be leaving for a long time or going into the tent for a long time. So I did like that. That was a little, once you get the bottom zipped, then it tends to go, not sag, and to go into place a little more easily. One of the things that every tent buyer wants to know is, does it leak?
Well, okay, the short answer is yes, but not a lot. I mean, it's pretty minimal, and quite frankly, every little forum I've been on where people are talking about tents, every review that I've read about tents, people that actually know what they're talking about when they're experienced tent users, the first thing they do when they buy a new tent is put seam sealer on it.
Right.
So, and that's something that we did not do as of this day.
We bought tent sealer.
We did.
We brought it with us.
But we never used it. I don't know how smart that is. That's really the first thing you should do. We were, and especially the last downpour we were in, I mean, we're talking 10 to 12 hours of heavy, heavy downpour rain. And we had a little bit along a couple of edges, and I mean, we're talking just tiny little bits.
I really think this held up pretty well for
It did.
never having the seams sealed and having been in rain pretty much every trip we've ever been on with it.
What are some of the features that this tent has to reduce the amount of water that can get in there? So one of them is the tub style floor. The bottom of the tent actually comes up, I'd say 3 to 4 inches from the ground before it meets the wall. Before there's a seam between the two. There's no seams that are at ground level. They're all at least 3 or 4 inches above the ground. So that's one thing. If you end up sitting in water somehow, you won't have a seam sitting in water. The door have sort of a flap that covers up the zippers. This works mostly, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but when we talk about how the water sheds off of here. So there are a couple of storage pockets on the inside of the tent that we would keep our glasses in, or keys, something like that. And during this really super heavy downpour, I noticed that the stuff I had in my storage pocket was wet. And I have a feeling it was from the weight pulling on the seam. And it just allowed a little bit of water to get through and actually drip into the storage pocket itself. I mean, it's like a net bag. It didn't hold water, but the stuff that was in there got a little wet.
If you do have to put this tent away wet, it actually dries even inside the bag a lot faster than you might think it would. One of our things is if we pack up in the rain, which we do most of the time,
Seems like it.
then part of our process is to just come home and take everything out and let it air dry in the yard, and the vast majority of the time, by the time we get that tent up, it's dry.
Right.
So that's actually a really good feature. I think it's not getting moldy and just sitting in the bag all wet.
Right. The door has these flaps which protect the zipper from getting water on them. But sometimes what happens, especially if you're closing up from the inside, you can't, or the wind could even do this as well. This top flap is not necessarily going to end up over top of this bottom flap, and water can shed in here. So in light rain, it's not really a big deal. Heavy rain, you got water shedding off of here down onto here, and it can get in there a little bit. And once those zippers get completely soaked and saturated, they will leak just a little bit. The windows, the zipper is on the inside and it's underneath. The netting for the window is there's a seam right here, and then the zipper is back kind of in this area. So it zips up all along here, and the water will shed off, and you can see the flap on the inside. That'll be closed, of course, and then the water would shed off all the way out, and that keeps things dry. So one of the things we do is where the fly comes down, it has these straps and the straps hook onto these hooks down here at the end of the pole. But these straps, in the slightest little wind, would sit here and go. They just flap against the poles and make kind of a racket. So what we always had to do is we just wrapped it around the pole a couple of times and then hooked it down at the bottom. So there is some Velcro straps that hold the fly to the poles. There's like 2 Velcro straps per corner or per pole. Plus it also has the guy wires that hold it down. And these are supposed to be reflective guy wires. I don't remember seeing them being reflective, but then again I never tripped over them either, so maybe they did their job and I just didn't notice. The tent came with heavy duty stakes like this and some normal wimpy looking stakes like this. I don't remember which set goes to the tent and which set is for the guy wires, but as soon as I saw these right here, I bought a bunch more of these because these things, okay, they're not gonna hold up. I hate stakes that bend. So I went and I bought these right away that are the same type and style as the ones that came with the tent. I hate it when the guy wires get all tangled up with each other, and so I try to wind them up in a way that sort of keeps them out of the way. What I do is I kind of start part way up here, kind of loosely wind it around my hand, and then when I have about that much left over, pull my hand out, wind it around like this, and then I'll stick the end of it through the loop, and then I tighten this up. Just slide the wrapping up like that, and it'll hang. And as long as you undo it properly by pulling this back through right, you won't have any knots. Something my dad taught me a long time ago. One of the features of this tent is that you can take the fly off on a hot summer night, and it's all open on the top. I mean, there's netting, of course, just like the windows, but you can watch the stars. As long as it's not going to rain, you can watch the stars or the moon or whatever and sleep under the night sky and be protected from the bugs. It's like a big bug tent. I don't know, bug screen. To this hinged door is the rod that goes all the way around the outside. And one of the things that they did here, Coleman did, to make this easy to put in and out is they have, and I have to admit I did not find this right away or notice it, but there's a zipper that goes up probably 2/3 of the way, and then you can just pull out this here and pull it out, and it's a piece of cake, except when the rod comes out. There we go. Just like that. Originally, when we bought this, the bag had a strip of material that connected kind of these red lines and kept that together. But they made this bag expandable, so you tear that off and you get a whole bunch more bag. That way it makes it tons easier to put this tent away when you're all done. Because there was no way we were going to fold this thing back up the way that it came from the factory.
Look ahead, the sea is calm, and I know we've been through a lot, but just wait. Wait for better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore.
You're still here, and thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Now it's time for us to share each of our honest opinions with if we like this tent or if we kind of regret buying this tent. So did you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
I actually love this tent. I love the size. I love that I can put a comfy mattress in it. And I really like the dark technology because I like to feel secure in my tent, that I don't have people peeping in on me when I'm trying to move around at night or get dressed.
That is nice.
What do you think?
For me, I hate all tents.
That's kind of unfair.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm not lying when I say that. I hate sleeping on the ground. What else? Yeah, I really don't like sleeping on the ground. I don't like there always being sort of a fear of water getting inside where I'm trying to live. Okay, that just, there's a certain amount of anxiety that goes along with that. I don't like it. Now, that being said, it doesn't matter what tent I'm in. That's every tent. This tent, for all intents and purposes, served us very well all summer long. And I really don't have any gripes about it. I mean, there were a few things that I showed throughout the video, you know, with a door giving me a hard time, or, you know, a couple of droplets getting inside here and there. But for the most part, it's a really good tent.
It's a tent.
Yeah, it's a tent. In an upcoming video, which hopefully won't be nearly as hot and sweaty. It's muggy out here, I'm sorry. Anyway, in an upcoming video, we're gonna show you how we made the inside of this tent comfortable for us to be in.
Almost glamping. So stay tuned.
Yes. If you could hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when a new video comes out, we'd very much appreciate it. That's probably the best way you could support us right now.
And guess what? It's free!
Yeah.
And remember to go to takeatriptogether.com/travel planning guide to get your free packing list travel guide. It's just filled with great information for you.
It's like 25 pages long or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's again free.
Yeah, it's a great resource that you continue to reuse on every trip. You can document parts of your trip on it. It's mostly about.
So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. Wait for our home to show on the horizon. Soon we'll be there. Hold on tight. I can smell the shore. It's right in front of us. If we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. Ooh, we are dreaming.